It often begins with a quiet, persistent sense of confusion. You find yourself apologizing for things you didn't do, or feeling a heavy weight of guilt you can't quite explain to someone you trust. This is because covert manipulation doesn't look like an attack. It doesn't rely on obvious force. Instead, it operates within the safety of intimacy, disguising its calculated maneuvers as concern, logic, or even affection. To stop the cycle, you have to see the system. By breaking down the 7 core tactics of a manipulator's modus operandi, we can expose the mechanism of this invisible control and show you how to defend against it. The foundation of control is reality distortion. It starts with gaslighting, a tactical effort to erode your confidence in your own perceptions until you begin to doubt your memory and your sanity. The manipulator will look you in the eye and deny factual hand. By refusing your reality, they force dependency, making you defer to their truth. This extends to future faking. They extract what they want today by trading it for a promise of a better tomorrow, a promise that continuously slides away. To counter this, you must rely on objective data. Keep a private, time-stamped journal to document conversations and events. When assessing a relationship, ignore what is promised and focus exclusively on what is actually being done. Reality distortion works because it removes your internal landmarks. Without a firm grasp on what is true, you are left with no choice but to let the manipulator lead the way. Manipulators also engineer your emotional state to create dependency. This begins with love bombing, the strategic use of intense flattery and overwhelming attention to bypass your boundaries and establish a quick, deep bond. Once you are invested, they pivot to the silent treatment. They suddenly withdraw all communication as a form of punishment, designed to trigger the fear of abandonment and force you to chase their approval. This graph illustrates the resulting emotional whiplash. By alternating between extreme affection and punitive silence, the manipulator creates a volatile cycle that makes their approval feel like a scarce and vital resource. Defense requires intentional pacing. Slow the relationship down and observe how they react when you set a small boundary. If they use silence to control you, do not beg for a response. Acknowledge the behavior and maintain your own schedule. This engineering gradually displaces your stable sense of self-worth. Over time, the internal compass that usually guides your emotions is nudged aside, making the manipulator's validation feel more significant than your own. The final 3 tactics ensure you stay exhausted and off balance. First is fog, fear, obligation, and guilt. This weaponizes your empathy, making you feel constantly in debt for favors you never asked for or mistakes you didn't commit. Then comes triangulation. This is the deliberate introduction of a third party, like an ex or a competitive coworker, into your dynamic. It manufactures a sense of competition, pressuring you to work harder to prove your value. Finally, there is moving the goalposts. No matter how much you achieve or how hard you try, the expectations shift. The moment you meet a requirement, a new, more difficult one takes its place, keeping you in a permanent state of inadequacy. To resist these traps, recognize that healthy support never comes with a ledger of debt. Refuse to compete for a person's basic respect, and refer back to your original agreements when you notice the rules of the relationship are being changed. These tactics ensure the victim is the one doing all the work to save the relationship, leaving the manipulator in a position of total, effortless control. When you look at these 7 tactics together, you see a systematic exploit. Manipulators aren't using magic. They are simply identifying the very traits that make us human and using them as leverage. They look for the areas where we are most vulnerable, our natural desire to belong, our aversion to conflict, and the small, normal doubts we all have about ourselves. Each tactic we've discussed targets one of these specific entry points. Once you understand the mechanism, the tactics lose their invisibility. The psychological weight of the manipulation may still be there, but the confusion starts to lift. You are no longer trapped in a mystery. You are observing a predictable pattern. To reclaim your reality, start by using the pause. When you feel pressured or accused, do not respond immediately. Give yourself the time needed for your logical brain to catch up with your emotional response. Second, use reality checking. Manipulators thrive by isolating you. Share your experiences with a trusted, unbiased third party who can help you see the situation without the fog of the manipulator's influence. Finally, establish non-negotiable boundaries. Limits are only effective if you have decided in advance exactly what you will do if they are crossed. A boundary without a consequence is just a suggestion. The person you trust the most can be the most difficult to see clearly, but recognizing the truth isn't a betrayal of the relationship. It is an act of self-preservation. Take a look back at your own interactions. If these patterns look familiar, tell us which ones you've noticed in the comments. Naming these tactics is the first step toward reclaiming your reality.